Hello, everyone. We just finished up today's live session where we go over creating a wedge, mortise, and tenon for this sweet little bench. We use Studio to create the files, then we ship that over to Origin. Jake cuts his beautiful wedge out, and at the end, we assemble a really nice joint with a little extra holding power.
Yep. Make sure to join us live sometime every other Thursday at 4 p.m. Pacific. We do live Q&A at the end, and we do giveaways.
So, if you're sticking around on YouTube, let us know how you like the show, and we hope you enjoy it.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Shaper Sessions. My name is Jake.
And I'm Sean.
And today, in honor of the Joinery Challenge, we're going to do some wedge tenons.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun one. We're going to walk you through a bunch of cool things about how to take the wedges and make the wedges, and then we'll also go through the tenons, and then, there's a whole project related to this that we'll talk about shortly, but yeah, we're going to kind of walk you through Studio and also how to cut it on Origin.
Yeah.
And you'll notice we don't have Bench Pilot today, so we're going to be doing it the old-fashioned way.
You have to remember how to use Origin.
Jake, we'll see how he does. I'm sure he'll do fine. And yeah, it's going to be an exciting one.
Yep. That Joinery Challenge is going until March 6th. For those that don't know, we're hosting a Joinery Challenge where we want to see your top-notch joints. It's primarily using Origin, and it's not so much about the project. It's more about the connection point. So it could be within a project. That's great, but we care about that joint. First place is going to get $1,000 to the store.
Pretty nice.
Second place gets $500. Third place gets $200, and it's all voted on by the community within Shaper Hub. So the things that you need to know in order to join are you're going to post the project, post your joint on Shaper Hub with at least 3 photos or videos. Videos are really helpful because you give that opportunity to hear the. And we're going to use this Shaper Hub starring system. The community is going to vote. So on March 6th is the final date for entry. One caveat that you need to add in the description is the hashtag joinery-challenge. That will put everything together to make it easy to vote on.
Yeah, and if you want to take a quick look, maybe, Ian, we can come down to my screen.
Yeah, let's see what's in there.
So if you go to hub.shapertools.com or just the main area in Shaper Hub, you'll see this top vote here that has some kind of examples of different types of joints. But if you click the View All, you can see what people are submitting. And so if you go to Most Recent, that will show all the most recent ones here, and you can kind of just peruse through that list. Or if you hit Most Popular, we can look at the current leading pack, which is this inlaid dovetail here, and then a rotating dovetail, followed by the tripod joint. So whoever has the highest star count at the end will be the winners. And so make sure you vote on the ones that you want to see win. There's some pretty sweet ones in here. And don't, just because one's leading the pack, a new one can come along and gain those stars quickly. So check it out. If you're also looking for that tag to put into it, you can see it right here on this screen. You need to make sure you have this hashtag Joinery Challenge in the top part of this area when you're editing those files. So, this is here's one with a little video, so we can just quickly see how it goes together. Videos, they tell 1,000 pictures,
Oh,
Boom.
That's so cool.
So, definitely get your entries in. We're excited to see what you create.
Right on. I'm personally really excited because now we're going to have a whole host of things that we can use, of joints that we can apply to different projects.
Oh, totally.
Forward.
Yeah,
it's all in one nice spot.
It's a really cool one. I mean, typically Shaper Hub has like full projects that you can build, but this is kind of an interesting one where they're almost like articles of how to do something interesting. And you'll probably end up applying them to your own work. So take a look even if you're not going to participate. And if you're in the comments, let us know what you're thinking about.
Yeah.
Would love to hear how you think about the challenge and if you're going to participate. So,
speaking of which, this is a live show, so I want to remind everyone to actively use that comment section. Ask your questions. We're going to go through them at the end during the Q&A section. Show some off live. Also, in order to enter our giveaway at the end of the show, you're going to need to answer the poll question. It's going to pop up about halfway through. The question of today is, what's your favorite joint to cut with Origin?
Boom.
If you're just like, I cut box joints all day long, that's okay. We want to know. Then today, we're making the humble tenon a little fancier.
It's definitely gotten a little step up on the OG tenon.
Not
but-
only does it look cool, a wedge tenon, but it's also mechanically inclined.
Yeah, I mean, if you're new to woodworking, wedge tenons are essentially the ability to take that kind of piece that comes out that will fit in the mortise eventually, and adds a little split in it that kind of just pushes those fibers out and kind of captures the joint a little bit better. Jake is going to show off the little bench that he and Noah create. Noah designed this, or you designed this?
Noah designed this, and the fun part about this project is it is entirely made with on-tool CAD. Everything about it. So while that's cool, and I love the fact that we could do that, we will make the files and we will post this as a project on ShaperHub.
And today, because these files are even pretty simple to work with, I'm going to design them live.
Yeah.
During the show. So we can kind of learn a little bit about Studio and how the files get created for something like this. But yeah, this was a really old project, if you've been around for a while, that utilized all the shape creation directly on Origin so that you could get used to creating these files for yourself to make something nice and elegant.
Designed before Studio.
Yeah, the Studio wasn't a thing when we came out with this, and was, hey, how do I get my ideas into Origin? And we thought,
yeah,
why not just do it directly on Origin? So they designed this one specifically for that.
The other star of the show for the day is going to be the 11-degree tapered bit, which I'm looking around for. I'll just show off on the tool. This is a bit that you can buy on the accessory store. It's about an inch long in cutting head, and it has an 11 or 10.8 degree taper. So we're going to use this to cut both the wedge and the receiving end of the wedge. All right.
Should we jump into it?
Let's get into it. We want to start with that wedge first.
Yes.
Right?
Yep. So we're going to cut the wedge first, and then after that, we'll cut the tenon. We're not going to cut the mortise during the show, but it's pretty simple. So yes, I was thinking, Jake, why don't you, because I don't know the size of this stock, why don't we show off a quick feature on the tool called Probe Rectangle, which allows you to measure the stock using Origin and export that file over to Studio so I don't have to think about the size. And this is great because basically after we finish this, we know the exact dimension of what we're working on. You can think of this as something big or small. It doesn't matter. You kind of can capture that rectangle quickly. And then when you're designing the shape, you make sure everything's going to land inside of it.
Yep. All right, so that's going to live under the Create tab. Probe Rectangle. I have my probing bit, which is just my engraving bit backwards chucked up in my spindle. And we're making 5 touches. 2 on the front, right side, top side, left side. Boom. Now I know where dead center is, and it's generated a rectangle that is exactly the size of my material. So with that, I send to you a wedge.
Yeah, so if you're not seeing the Probe Rectangle feature in that Create menu, you do have to go to Settings to enable it. It's a one-time thing. It's a kind of an early labs extension right there. You'll see it. If you don't have it selected, just click it, and then you'll have access to that. And then after that, we just exported it up to the cloud. We're going to come over to the computer, and I'm just going to go to studio.shapertools.com, and because I'm connected to that same account, it's going to automatically sync this over, and boom, now we have this area. So now I can tell that this piece of material we had is 2.135 by 1.397 wide, and so that gives me a really good understanding of, okay, as long as what I'm trying to cut fits in here, when we bring it back onto the tool, we know we're going to fit and we're not going to be off of the shape. Sometimes you can be designing and not really know how big that shape is to start, and you'll end up cutting off your material. Okay, so let's start building this. Now, I know through let's see, the files that will come with this when you get it, I'm just going to pull this up real quick, are going to look a little bit like this, and this is just files I have downloaded. I'm going to open these so we can kind of reference them a little bit. These will be the files that will be available to you. I'm just going to build them for fun while we're doing this. So You'll say, what is this? Well, this is actually 4 wedges because there are 2 different size tenons on this stool. So there's a smaller width and a wider width. And so we need to make sure we get both of these. And the way this works is essentially we're going to use that conical bit to cut on line, and then that's going to create our wedges in it. So we're going to cut directly into the end grain, and we'll create a few of those lines, and then we'll just make sure the widths are correct. So I'm going to start off by going back to my other file, and I know that this first one, we know that they're about 1 inch wide. So this is going to give me a good reference on the width. So let me hold that over there. But the key thing, and this is something I actually don't know how Noah came to this. There is an important number which makes sure the wedge is correct in width, and it's 0.31. I'm sure there's some math wizard in the comment will tell me why that is. It's a 10.8 degree bit, so there's a little bit of math to figure out where these lines go, but I'm just going to go ahead and draw a few lines in here, and I'm going to extend a little bit outside of this material. So I'm just going to use the draw tool. This is a new tool that's been released, and you click once, and then when you click the second time, it's going to draw a line. Now, we don't need to connect it back. If I wanted to make a full shape, I could kind of keep clicking and come back to that original shape. But in this case, I just want to hit the D key on my keyboard, and that's going to finish that line by itself. Okay, and then I'll start another one here, and I'll put one here, hit the D key again. Cool, so now we have these are going to be the lines that we're going to use to cut with that conical bit, because we need to be 0.31 inches away, and I set my grid up to be that. So we're just essentially using the grid to create these files quite easily. I'll hit the D key again, and one more time, hit the D key again, then I'll put one more up here. Okay, cool. So now if you look in between here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces where these tenons are going to live, and that's kind of perfect because with our stock, we don't really have much extra material. And so those will be cut with that bit. And now I'm just going to hit escape to go out of the draw mode, and I'm going to bring this rectangle over in the middle here. So you can kind of think of this. This is our 1 inch width, and we also need another width. We also need another width. Just going to duplicate this shape, and this is going to be 0.75 inches wide because we need 2 different widths for those 2 different tenons. 0.75, boom. Okay, so these bottom 2, I'm going to try to make this wide, and the top 2 I'll make a little bit wider. So I'm going to move these shapes up here, and you can start to see what's going on. Oh, looks like I deleted one of these. So let's just make another one right here. All right, cool. So now you can start to see where this is gonna end up being kind of the tenon area. But in order to do that, we actually need to create pieces on the side that are to make this actually the right area. So I will take this file and duplicate it over here. And all I'm gonna do is make sure it touches the edge of this. And so you can see with snapping on, and if yours isn't snapping properly, hit this design tab up here and you'll see smart alignment, and just make sure that's clicked and snap to grid is clicked, and that will kind of clean it up for us. So I'm going to do that for this and bring this over here, and I'm going to snap it to this side. So now these 2 up here are going to be nice. I can basically get rid of this shape. I was just using that for a reference. So now I got my 2 shapes, this top tenon and this one, because when we cut these with this bit, oh, need to change that. Oh, lost a couple things. Undo that. Oh. All right, let me just refresh this. Maybe having a little internet problem.
But you were creating that is the size of the tenon itself, right?
Correct. Yeah,
stretcher.
I'm essentially just trying to make the areas that I need to take away, because I don't actually want to cut the inside. These are the parts that this kind of section here, and here's what we're gonna keep.
Yeah.
Now for the bottom ones, we're going to do the same thing. Oh, I didn't have it centered either, but it doesn't matter. These are still 1 inch wide. And if you ever want to check how big something is, actually the draw tool is great for that. You can click once, and when you start drawing, you're going to see the distance. So here we have a 1 inch, right, from point to point, which is perfect for what we need. And then we want another one down here. Maybe in this show, we'll just show the wide ones being cut. We don't need to cut the two different ones. But if I was going to do that, I would put some more shapes down here to make these bottom two a little bit smaller.
Now those rectangles on the outside, are those inside or outside cuts?
Yes, so these are, so now let's get rid of these and this. Let's go to plan mode, and we do need to do a little bit of planning here. So these are actually going to be inside cuts. Boop. And this one's going to be an inside cut. And you'll see in a minute as we start figuring this out. Now, if I select everything, there's one extra path here that was the outside that we exported. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to get rid of that and turn that into a guide so we don't have to worry about it. Okay, so now when we look, we have these inside cuts, which are going to determine the width of this area, and then also these on lines, which we can't really represent how the conical bit's going to be shown. You just have to trust me when we get there. And the only thing I'm going to do, Jake, to make this a little bit faster, I'm going to change the anchor point of these and make them a little smaller so that we don't have to cut that whole area out. So if I select a shape, I can hit this little button here, and that actually is going to allow me to select an anchor point. And I want this inside one because I don't want this line to change. And now I can just drag this in, make sure it's a little bit bigger than 1/4 of an inch, and do the same with this one. I'm going to go ahead and hit that anchor point, select the inside there, and I'm going to drag that in. So that means that these won't change. And now we don't have to cut that whole big shape out. So yeah, I think that'll pretty much do it. The only thing I was going to add is these all need to be cut to the same depth, which we know is 0.85. 0.85. So I just selected everything, hit the depth. And if you do this now, when you hover shapes in Studio, you'll see that, hey, everything's programmed to 0.85. So when you go over to Origin, you don't have any problems. Boom.
That's my cue.
All right. So
you just finished there, so it's going to be top of my list in import.
Yeah, if you're connected to the same account and you have a Studio license, it'll automatically sync those files over. All Jake's going to do is make sure he goes and puts it right back at 0, when he places that, and that's going to move that file that we exported right back to the same spot. And so, if you're in the middle of a project and you have an issue, you can kind of export that up to the cloud, do your changes in Studio, and then import it back, and everything will be in the right spot. And it can kind of save you in a lot of cases when you're mid-project.
Love it. And now it's a lot clearer too. I have on lines for my tapered bit and inside cuts over here.
Nice. Okay.
Well, I'm going to get cooking. I'm going to do these in 3 passes with that conical bit. Using AutoPass, it's nice. It just steps down each time I complete the line. It will jump to my next step.
Yeah, and a little pro tip there, if you hold down the little green button, when you get to the end, it'll automatically move it down for you and kind of start advancing it towards the line where you can just let go and continue on.
Love that. Okay.
All right, let's get it. I mentioned that Studio will automatically sync those files over for you if you have a license. Now, Studio also works without a license. And so how does that work? It basically has all the same features as someone who's paying for Studio, but you have to manually export the Studio designs to SVGs so you can use them on Origin. So you'll see them on Origin, but you won't be able to import them directly. If you want to use a file you've modified on Studio, just go to Studio. In that top left area, hit the little shaper button, and you can hit export as SVG. And that'll save it directly into your files. And then you can load that directly on Origin, and you can do that 3 times a month. So you even if you're not paying for Studio, you have full access to all the Studio tools. And you should try it out. If you haven't tried it out, Studio is a simpler, easier to use software solution for digital fabrication. It's really meant for people who need to do these types of things quickly, that don't need the full range of tools that these other SVG programs have. And it makes life pretty simple. We're updating it constantly. We released a draw tool as of a couple months ago. There's new templates being made. We just released a heart template for Valentine's Day. So if you haven't checked out Studio, I would urge you to give it a little try. And yeah. All right, how are we doing, Jake?
For the sake of time, I'm just going to
cut
those 2. I only need one for today.
Yep.
But that is Pretty cool. It gives me ideas. I feel like we could make a scarf joint with this.
Oh, yeah, we definitely could.
Probably should try to make a scarf joint.
Okay, has everyone been able to see kind of what we've done now? Yeah, there we go. That's a good view of it. So you can see that those are not straight up and down cuts. They have a slight taper to them to the order of 10.8 degrees. I'm wondering if anyone in the comments has figured out the answer for that 0.31 separation yet. I know there's a math thing there. You know, I'm not a math wizard. Okay, so now we're gonna switch bits, and we're gonna use that straight bit for the width, and this is gonna define how wide the tenons are. Now, obviously, if you didn't even want to do this, you could just cut them out and take a handsaw and trim them to size. Yeah. Once you find the tenon width, but you got precision.
I will say this about doing this part with Origin. Originally, when we first did this design, the tenons were circular. And Noah was really tricky. He curved these outside lines so that the wedge matched the curve of the circular tenon, which was pretty trick.
Yeah.
But then it's like, okay, now you have a thing that you have to make sure is straight as it goes across as a stretcher. So made more sense to make it square.
Nice.
All right, 1/4 inch bit.
So we're going to cut those outside edges.
Automatic Z-touch. Also, no one saw it, but when I had that conical bit in there, I went ahead and did a manual Z-touch. It doesn't come to a complete point. It's actually a very tiny radius on the bottom, but it's sharp enough to where it might dimple into wood and not give you an accurate, a fully accurate Z-touch because of its sharpness. Okie dokie. Shawnee.
Yeah.
I think you made my rectangle slightly
too small.
Ever so slightly too small.
Oh, wow.
Unless, wait, I think I might know the issue. Yeah. I'm going to turn roughing passes off.
This is a great learning moment for people. Okay, so if you ever get to a spot where you go to cut,
you're like, I know I can cut this
and I know I made it big enough, but it won't fit for some reason. Check if you're using AutoPass that clicking that 4 passes button, sometimes this roughing pass is it is adding space that you need to clear it out. If you turn that off, though, sometimes, and you might have to use that switch button, boom, now it fits. And so, that roughing offset is adding a clearance that I did not clearly put in the file. So we'll just cut it without a roughing pass.
That's a good little catch, because otherwise you'd be like, why is that not there?
Exactly.
All right, we're going to do this 3 passes too.
Now, if you weren't using AutoPass and you were just using it manually, you would not see that issue because it doesn't automatically add that space in. But when you're using AutoPass, it's calculating that, hey, I can fit in that entire space for the roughing and the finishing pass. And if you're not familiar with AutoPass, well, you should give the free trial a try when you get a good project coming up. But it basically speeds up the workflow. It keeps you from making silly mistakes when you type stuff in, and just generally speeds up the whole process of clearing out material. And it really adds the roughing and finishing passes in one go. And so you just kind of drive in circles until it's done. On that last pass, probably take a little more care because you're right on the final edge of that shape. But yeah, give it a try. There's a free trial directly on Tool. Everybody gets a 30-day free trial, so go enable that and try it out. And yeah. All right. I actually don't have a monitor today, so I have no idea if Jake's doing the right thing or not. I'm just winging it.
Gotta trust.
But it looks pretty good to me.
That's such a cool thing. There's a lot to be explored with this bit.
All right, so if we come over to that, why don't we pull it out and show everybody up close what we got now? Because it is a little tricky to conceptualize, especially in Studio and 2D. So we have the slots that go across that are flat, and then the ones that go the other way are the conical bit. And so now we have a little bit of a...
You need to cut these suckers free.
Yeah. Here, I can hold this side.
You gonna man clamp it for me?
Yeah, I'll man clamp it.
Thank you.
Don't cut my hand off. Boom.
Bingo.
Workstation does make for a nice clamp sometimes, you know. If you don't have enough room for a good vise,
There it is.
boom. There's our little wedge. Okay, so if we're doing this for the actual project, as I mentioned, there are 2 different size widths.
Yes.
And so, you know, we would
That's true.
resize that. But
Yeah.
you can see, yeah. I'm actually really curious why Noah decided to make 2 different sizes. Because I feel like it adds a lot more to the work. Yeah. Maybe
Yeah,
it's a design choice.
It's a design choice.
It's a design choice to add another hour to the project.
I'm looking at it now, and it is the top stretcher is taller.
Yep.
Because we wanted to. That's why he wanted to move this tenon as far away from the edge of this
nice.
as possible, so that
Yeah.
it didn't actually like
Makes
split.
sense. Makes sense.
Also, can we just get a round of applause
Yeah,
for
it
that
is.
sapwood?
It's really nice.
Yeah,
Who glued that up?
someone that really likes sapwood.
All right. Cool. So that's cutting the wedge. And I think we're going to take a little break.
Yes, wedges are cut. Before we cut the tenon, want to hop over into the break. Bring up that poll question, which is, what is your favorite joint to cut with origin?
All right, Jake, what's yours?
I mean, last week we did dovetails.
Yep.
It's kind of hard to beat. Once you cut a dovetail with origin, you're like, whole new world. But no, my favorite is castle joint.
Oh, castle joint.
Mhm.
Yeah. I've really gotten non-uniform box joints turned in my go-to now.
The lazy man's dovetail.
Oh, it's so easy. It's just like, use Studio, generate a couple of boxes,
Uh-huh.
flip them. You can crank them out. You don't have to deal with any of the details of the
looks so good,
dovetail
too.
angle. And to a lot of people, they don't even know the difference.
Totally.
It's so easy.
Yeah.
All right. Well, put your favorite joint in there, and we'd love to hear it. And that will enter you for the drawings at the end of the show.
Reminder to everyone again, in case you missed it in the beginning, we're having a joinery challenge happening right now, and it's running until March 6th. First place is winning $1,000 to the Shaper store.
Pretty nice.
Yeah, that's like,
Well, I think we said it the other day. I'm like, $1,000. It's like you can load up on some spindles.
oh yeah,
You can have the hot swapping.
hot swap.
I mean,
all
we
day.
got one of ours is just pro bit.
Yeah,
There's a lot of good stuff there. So yeah, you should definitely check it out.
check out the go to Shaper Hub. Very top of the list, you're going to see joinery challenge as a whole category. You can check out what's been posted so far, but the key is you need to post it on Shaper Hub with the hashtag joinery-challenge in order to enter.
Yeah, and if you got to the show late, we went over that in the beginning of the show. So when the YouTube version comes out, go check that out, and it has a bunch of the info.
Speaking of spare spindles, we also have an accessory discount happening right now.
Ooh,
Yeah.
You want to see what we got on the accessory discount real quick?
Yeah,
All right, here we go.
because there's a couple of new characters.
Yeah, it's nice when some new characters show up in the accessory sale. Okay, so workstations, 15% off. If you don't have workstation, I mean, it's going to be a tough time making these tenons and wedges. That's on 15% off. That's great. Shaper plate as well. The bit washer. I mean, if you haven't got a bit washer yet, I mean, they'll save your bits like no other. It's just so nice to basically not have to worry about your bits getting all gummed up and burned up extra quick. And then, here's a pretty new one. The SM1 spindle's on sale. So if you don't have a second spindle, you should definitely pop into that. And then we talked about AutoPass in the show a little earlier. And AutoPass is on the same sale as well.
The first time?
We did it, I think, once, but it's relatively new. So this is pretty newcomer. So, yeah, if you haven't taken advantage of AutoPass yet, try the trial and then come back to the accessory store before it's over so you can get a little discount.
Nice.
Also, connected calipers. I mean, there's a lot on here. So if you haven't checked out the accessory sale, you should do that before it's too late.
Here's an extra deal on top of it. If you spend over $200 or more, during our accessory sale, you're going to get a free woven dust hose.
And why would I want a woven dust hose?
Oh, anti-static, anti-snag. It looks cool. It feels cool.
Yeah, especially if you're driving Origin by hand, if you've ever been driving and you have a hose that's ribbed on the outside, you'll be cutting and all of a sudden it'll start stretching and then it'll give and you'll jerk a little bit. This removes that. It'll slide right over your material, no problem. So $200 in the accessory store gets you free hose.
Nice.
Pretty nice.
All right. Last but certainly not least, our shop tour of the day comes from Colorado, Wayne Jacobson. Thanks for sending it in. Let's check it out.
And I made with the Shaper Origin. We're here at about 7,000 feet in Colorado near Steamboat Springs. That's the view from just outside the workshop. And here we are inside. In this part of the workshop, I've got the traditional woodworking tools, the jointer, the planer, the bandsaw, router table. There's a chop saw over there in the corner. There's a lovely drum sander, crummy drill press over there. This should be a hand tool area. I've got all these hand tools here. Right now it's piled with stuff because, the shop is just chaotic right now because of the project of making inlaid charcuterie boards for Christmas. So I've got inlay wood kind of everywhere you look. Over here are the boards I'm going to inlay. I like having easy to access hardware, so I've got the major sizes all down there, including some metric stuff. Computer in the shop is nice to have, just an old one sitting there. The table saw and dust collector. On the dust collector, I've got one end hooked up to the table saw permanently, and the other one is just a hose I move to the other tools as needed. Over here, there's a bunch of sandpaper, all nicely organized. And here is a sanding and assembly table. That's on wheels too, so I can get it out of the way. And last but not least is the Shaper Origin corner. The Origin's on a workstation, and Bench Pilot are all on a dedicated table, and it's got storage for Shaper-related stuff down here. I'm keeping my bits out here so I can keep them handy. This is a plate I made for manual Z-touching. It's kind of nice. If I swing over here, the bit washer is close by. And I've got a Z sled. I'm probably gonna have to move the Z sled because I ordered a 3D printer and I'm planning on sticking that right there. Anyways, hope you enjoyed the tour. Bye.
Still muted too.
All right. We are
Nice.
back. We hear there's a little bit of technical difficulties going on in the stream. If you could give us 1 or 2 minutes, we're going to try to figure that out, and then we'll rewind.
In the
get back
meantime, I'm going to
where we
wax
were.
poetically about that view.
Oh, you are?
Oh my gosh. Apparently we got good stream.
Okay.
Anyways, thank you so much, Wayne, for sending that in. I noticed 2 things. One, huge sign that he cut with Origin on the side of the building as you come in. Super cool to see that. We love seeing huge projects. And I think that takes the cake for best view outside of the shop.
I mean, it's pretty good.
I mean, you got a good view.
Considering I have no windows in my shop.
You have no
it's
windows.
way better than my view. Wayne's a big person on the forum who's part of there. If you don't know, we have a forum where customers and people who are interested can come and chat about Shaper Origin, Bench Pilot, everything else. Wayne's got a bunch of cool stuff in there, and I think he did a long post about that sign years ago. Yeah, about how he designed it and built it and thought about and all that. So, cool. Yeah, thanks Wayne for sending that in. It's always exciting to see your shop, and he also has a YouTube. You can find it on the forum.
Yeah. I also want to know what kind of car that is. You skipped right over it, but as you passed through, I saw it through the window. Something old, something beautiful. Anyways, moving on. we have.
Okay, so let's talk about really quick where we're at.
Yep.
What we did in the beginning of the show. Maybe some people showed up.
A lot of talking.
Lot of talking.
A lot of talking for these two wedges, but we have the wedges. Now we are ready to cut the tenon. And this is the easy part, really.
Yeah, this is. It's funny that we had to do the other part of the studio first because this one's going to be a lot easier. So we're going to go back in the studio, design this quickly, and then we'll see how it goes. All right, so let's jump back over into studio. I'm going to jump back into this reference page first, just so we can take a look. So, okay, so Jake and this file are pretty well done. I'm going to talk as we design it, a couple options for us. But in general, this is the line where we're going to use that conical bit to cut the wedge into the tenon. This is the tenon, and then this is kind of the stock material. And then this is kind of a shape that allows us to pocket that out freely. And so we'll talk a minute about how that works. But I just wanted to quickly make sure I had my dimensions right for this. 1.5 inch stock, and then 1 inch on the tenon. Okay, great. So let's make a new file. Studio, new design. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and make that stock first, just so we have it. And I'm going to make that 1.5 by 1.5 by 1.5. Cool. So there's our stock. If you ever get like this where you created something that gets bigger, you can hit that little button up here and it'll zoom you to the perfect size of whatever shape selected, which is pretty nice. This little button here. Now we have our stock. Okay. And you notice I put this at the 0, 0 position in the world because it'll just make it a lot easier to place everything if it's right at 0, 0. Okay. So there is that. And now we want to make a tenon shape. And so you might want to click rectangle here, but actually we need to click rounded rectangle, which is right beside it. And what do you know? It's already the right size, 1 inch by 1 inch. And that's great. Okay, so there's our tenon and there's our stock. Now, we can go ahead and put this file in for the wedge. And I'm just going to hit the D key. Or instead of doing that, I'll click Make Shape. Oh, just kidding. I'll hit the Draw button here. And I'm just going to click right here and right there. And then I'll use that D key again to terminate that so we have our kind of open path that we're gonna travel on. So this would be the cut. That would be our outside, and this is our stock. And so if we go to plan mode, let's just think about this for a minute. So this outside piece, we're not actually going to cut that. So I'm going to select it and change it to a guide. And then I'll just hit Command A to select everything so we can see it. And what size bit are we going to cut this outside with? Do you know?
1/4 inch.
Okay, so I'm just going to change everything to a 1/4 inch just so we can get an idea of the size. This middle one's obviously going to be cut with the wedge, the conical cutter, so it's not really representative at the moment. But you'll see, if we were to cut this with just this path, we'd leave a bunch of the tenon uncleared. And so there's two options. One is to basically use offsets on origin to offset that, and then you could kind of cut a bunch of area around it. But you're going to be cutting through empty space here, right? If we did a 1/4 inch offset, I'll just simulate it with this field. Now we would clear the corners, but you would see most of our cut is just empty air. And so Jake, I know Jake likes this. He likes to basically make a big pocket that's a little bit bigger than your guide, and then use Shapeshifter to basically build a big pocket around here. So let's do that just to make Jake happy today. So I'll take this shape here that's on the outside, and I'm going to duplicate this in place. So if I scroll down here, there's a duplicate button and a duplicate in place. We just want it in place because I'm basically going to click that, and I'm going to stretch it a little bit bigger than this shape. Okay? And so now what I want to do is I want to basically combine these shapes, because right now all these shapes are totally separate. And so if we go to this mode and we look at it, we actually will want to select this shape and this shape by holding Shift, Sean. Hold Shift down on your keyboard, and then you can select multiple things. And then we're going to shapeshift this together. And so basically Shapeshifter says, hey, take multiple objects, and then you tell me what you want to keep. And so I want to keep this outside one here.
To exclude that tenon.
Yeah, because I don't want to cut inside of this shape. I just want to cut all this area around it. And so I can hit Make Shape, And now what you're going to notice after it finishes loading, I think we're having a little bit of internet problems here at the office maybe today.
I'm getting lost over here in the
reload that.
Douglas fir that I have chucked up in Workstation.
You're just staring at the Doug fir.
The old Douglas Ferguson.
All right, so I'm going to redo this again for everybody. I'm going to duplicate in place, make it a little bigger. And the reason we make it bigger is because pockets are going to kind of come down a little bit. So we need it bigger than the shape we need to cut. And then I'll select that inside by holding Shift, hit Shape Shifter, select this outside shape, make shape. There we go. Okay, so now when we go to plan mode, what we're going to see is this needs to be a pocket. And so see now, this is the this is still our stock here. Let me just change that back to a guide. So that's our stock. And now we have this big pocket that's going to go all the way around here. Okay, great.
Nice.
Okay, the last thing we want to do, probably, Jake, just to make this a little more efficient, is I'm going to basically make one more rounded rectangle just so that we don't have to change, and it happens to be the same size as what gets created.
Oh, perfect.
So that way we don't have to change between the pocket shape and the inside cut. You can just hover and select.
Nice.
So this file is now set up.
Can you do one thing for me?
Oh yeah, please. What would you like?
Could you rotate our wedge slot 90 degrees?
Oh, nice. Okay, so I'm actually just gonna delete this wedge and build another one. So go to the draw tool, click here, click there, hit the D key, boom.
Sweet.
Okay, and last thing, we might as well encode the depth. We know it, right?
Yeah.
So 0.85, right?
Yep.
Boom. Rock and roll.
Beautiful.
So yeah, everything here is going to be cut to 8.5, the wedge and the outside and the kind of inside.
And then we're just going to place that on center, yeah?
Correct.
Cool. I'm over here on Workstation. I have my stretcher mounted up, and I went ahead and just drew what direction I want that slot to go.
Smart.
I want to make sure I
put
don't
some
mess
pencil
that
on the
up.
wood because otherwise you'll accidentally put it the wrong way.
And here's why. If we were to put a wedge in this way, basically in line with the grain, and we're really driving that wedge in, it's going with the weakness of the grain, and it risks splitting the grain. So we're going to go counter to the grain. I want to make sure I don't mess that up when I'm in the heat of the moment.
Nice. Okay, so as far as placement goes, Jake, you could either do probe rectangle to find the center, or if you want, I can actually use a corner, and I'll put a custom anchor inside of the studio file. It's up
Let's
to
do
you.
that because I want to show custom anchor point.
Okay, we're going to jump back in the studio for just a second. So when it comes to origin and placing files, if we were to place this and we wanted to pick a corner, it's gonna pick this big box, and that's not actually where the material is. The material starts here. So in order to fix this, we're going to go to design mode and say add origin anchor. Boom. Now, you're going to see that this anchor point is in the center of the file, which is no good. We need it to be kind of down in this bottom corner. So I'm going to select everything, and I'm just going to move it up, and you see how that red triangle stays? And I'll just zoom in here really close and put that right on the money. Boom.
Nice. So
now we have the bottom left-hand corner as the thing we're going to reference. So instead of using probe rectangle, we're going to actually use the grid.
got my probe bit in there. We're making a front left grid. Import top of the list. There it is. And
Didn't come in. Oh, okay. If you ever have a problem where the anchor point didn't quite get updated, just toggle that anchor point and try importing it again now, Jake.
that's all right. I will use the center anchor point.
Oh, it's not working. All right.
So create probe rectangle. Drop it down. 1, 2, 3. Up and over. 4, and 5. Now we can drop it right in the...
Oh, I think we made a little grave mistake there.
Oh, see?
So if you already have a grid created, when you use the probe rectangle or circle, it will not overwrite the old grids by default. So when you're doing it, Jake will show it here in a second. There's a little grid button here, and if that's not highlighted, it will not overwrite your grid. If you don't have a grid, it'll create one automatically, but you know it's sometimes hard to get your old grids back. So, but you know, just one more little probe, and then boom, now we got a center-lined
Nice.
version. The one note for probe rectangle: those first 2 points actually define the entire kind of rectangle, essentially. So you know, you kind of want to reference your most important file there, and then as you go around, it's going to assume everything's perfectly 90 to that probe rectangle for those first 2, that first line that appears.
Cool.
All right.
And drop that at 0, 0.
Looks good.
I'm going to start with the 11 degree
You are.
just to get that out of the way and to minimize
You think
any...
it matters which one you do first or second?
I was like, maybe I'm minimizing the risk of tear out or chip out
Mm-hmm.
by doing this first.
But then you'll
and
have
putting
tear
it
out
down.
on the wedge parts coming around. You know, it's kind of a mixed bag. I don't know if there's a good answer for this one.
Not sure either.
We're gonna find out. That's why you made a few extra wedges. Yeah.
That's why I made it out of fur.
See, and this is if you're trying something for the first time, don't do it on your final piece first. Mill up a little longer stock so you can make a test tenon. Once that works, then you send it on your perfectly milled VG fur.
Yeah. Okay,
Let's do it.
let's let it rip.
All right. So as he mentioned, we're just using that auto pass so we can essentially go back and forth quite easily. Also, if you're doing these like conical bits or even like a larger, you know, ball nose bit, you can set that pass depth increment in the auto pass to kind of whatever you want. So you could do it real small and do small, you know, pieces where it's getting bigger and bigger, or you can, you know, kind of do it in bigger chunks up to the bit and the wood that you're using.
That is literally a squeaky fit.
Is it perfect?
It's so satisfying.
Hey, nice. Okay, so we cut that first.
For anyone that was like, I can make a wedge on
Hey,
a
you
bandsaw.
still got to cut that. What are you doing?
I do. I got distracted.
You were so excited about the fit, you were just going to rip it out.
Really was.
This is another key tip. I like to mark on the material that I'm using along the side that's referencing the fence. So I would use a pencil mark to kind of align, hey, this is the side that I was referencing. So if you do have to take it out, you can put it back. It'll go pretty much back in the same spot. You don't have to worry too much. Okay, so now we'll cut the tenons. All right, Jake, walk me through how you're thinking about doing this one before we cut it.
I'm gonna do.
We're gonna pocket that big area out.
Yep.
But you know, we're doing ingrain, and it's fur, so you could probably go a little, you know, aggressive.
Yeah. Our material though is 3/4 thick.
Yes. So the depth's going to be a little too deep, but we can just change
That's
it right
fine.
now.
Yeah.
This is the beauty of Origin is, you know, while you're in the middle of it, you can. This, you know, the file said you cut them all to 0.885.
0.76.
Yep.
I'm gonna confirm that.
And make sure you change that inside cut too.
That one is not set. They're both
Oh, okay. Well,
unencoded.
then just do them the old-fashioned way.
Just gonna go for it.
All right, full go.
Full go.
All right, now here's the other beauty of using that pocketing shape that we put on here is when you're pocketing, when you're freeform pocketing, you know, there is a climb cut direction and a conventional cut. Obviously, you could pick either, but ideally you would go conventional. kind of around in a certain way. But if you have a big pocket, you can adjust how much load is on the bit just by how much you're taking off of every go around. So if you realize, wow, this is actually pretty hard to cut, you can just kind of walk away from the edge a little bit and do shallower passes all the way around. But it's going to allow you to basically, you could cut this in one go and just decide whether you feel comfortable or not taking really heavy full diameter cuts, or even something like, hey, I'm only taking 25% width of the diameter cut because I don't want it to be so aggressive. Okay, and then I'm guessing I hear some stopping. I'm guessing we're going around to the final cut now. So Jake's basically doing it in 2 passes. Pocketing it once at one depth and then doing a next cut with the final inside cut. All right. How'd it go?
Great. I felt especially emboldened because that's a brand new bit.
Oh, yeah.
And it's fur. So it's just like
New bit.
like it wasn't even there. Now we get a nice little side profile. Bam. That's awesome.
Where's the hammer at, Jake?
And okay, so we did go just a little deeper
Yeah.
with the 11 degree, but that's fine because it's hidden.
Yeah, because we're going to end up trimming that top out anyways.
Right. We want that to sit right.
You think it's going to fit in that piece we made a year ago? What do you think, Jake?
Yes.
Maybe? Let's try it.
Yes.
Why not? Here, mark this first so we know that this side was the one going in. I'm guessing it's going to need a little bit of a removal. What do you think?
Just a little.
Well, it is fur. I mean, like a hammer's kind of built for fur. We'll put it back in and let's take a little bit off.
Okay.
So typically we would tell people, hey, cut the tenons first, then cut your mortises, because if we had tape on that piece, we could just take the mortise out a little bigger. We wouldn't have to put this back in and risk some type of movement there. It's a little easier, but you can do it this way. It's a little more tricky. Now, the only thing we might have a problem with here is if the tenon doesn't touch the spoil board on the top. But
we're good.
We're just lucky enough. And the annoying part about doing mortise and tenon joinery this way is every pass you do, you're guessing the offset, and you have to unclamp it, take it out, try to test fit it. If it doesn't fit, you got to put it back in, do it again.
That was
just
really
takes a
the
lot
point.
more time.
I was just trying to really drive that lesson home.
Well, you're driving it. All right, so here we go. One more, hopefully. I'm guessing Jake went for a 5 thou negative offset. That's just like the generic fit offset for pretty much everything I ever do. What do you think? What do you think?
Off the rack fit.
Oh yeah, put it back here. Come back a little bit so the people can see.
So.
Oh yeah, it looks pretty good.
It's going to come together.
You need a hammer?
I think there's a key difference here. And what I had a year ago is the radius is different.
Bigger radius.
Bigger radius on... It's so close, though. Yeah, I need a slightly tighter radius here.
Oh, radius is too big on that. Maybe we cut it with a 8mm or something.
Maybe we did.
Okay, well.
I'll drive it anyways.
Yeah, this is the thing about wood.
Doesn't want to go?
No, it's too big. Yeah, too much radius.
Too much
Well,
radius.
When the files get posted to Shaper Hub, they'll be perfect, and you'll have also learned how to create your own. So, yeah, there's the mortise and tenon with wedge.
But I'll show that off again. Bam. It's taking everything in me not to to realign to this and just cut that bigger.
You want to just probe rectangle that and then
Kind
make
of.
it a little bigger?
Kind of.
I mean, this show's not taking too long. If you want to, maybe we'll do it during the Q&A if we don't get enough questions. Let's explain how we're going to do this, Jake, because this is going to be a little bit of a fun one.
So I just popped down with some double-sided tape my bench side. I have my mortise that I cut probably like 2-3 years ago.
This project's got to be like 6 years old at this point.
Obviously, I did something different. But I'm going to use rectangular probe to probe off of the inside of this mortise.
Correct. Now, the key here that's pretty tricky is it's a pretty small rectangle. And so you would either want to get either a very small probe type of bit, which we don't have right now, which is fine, or we'll just use this one, and Jake will be careful. He's not too far on the left or the right to touch kind of that rounded area. Like I mentioned earlier, those first 2 points define, the most important part of this rectangle. So those first two are going to be, pretty important, but he'll take those first 2 points and then make sure he's touching. Now, when you're doing more advanced probing operations, you just got to make sure the right side of the bit is touching the right side of the material. But then once you get that, bada boom. Okay, so that's going to create a grid right at the center of the material. And you know what we could do? You can just import that file we made.
That's what I'm going to do.
And then change it directly on tool.
Yeah, I'm going to get rid of the rectangle, the square that it made, and just import this. Bam. Look at that. You can even see the radius. Oh, this is going to fit like a dream. Change that from an outside cut now to an inside.
While Jake's doing this, Andrew has a question.
Yes.
Jake, why don't you use plate instead? It's a good question.
It is actually a really good question.
No, well, you know what? Probably in this case, either one's fine.
Totally.
I think, it's just one of those things where, the tape, you just slap it down. And now what's great about having the tape instead of plate in this regard is if he wants to pick it up and try it fitting, he doesn't have to worry about plate moving around or clamping it or anything. Tape's not going to move. He can come back and cut it 100 times. So
That's exactly why I did.
yeah, that's exactly why.
All right, quick C-touch.
We really should have done this during the main show. Maybe we get Akeem to edit it in.
Yeah, should have. Okay, I'm going to take that 5/1000th of an inch away and just cut to 0, full depth. Here we go.
Wow, that was fast. I didn't even have a chance to say anything.
Camera cord.
I like this workstation setup. It's just like double-sided tape on top of workstation with a little MDF.
It's a little bit of a do as we say, not as we do type situation. There it is.
Oh my goodness, Jake. Why can't you have done that during the show?
I know.
Yeah, so this is now we can actually, well, at least, hey, we can cut this in and people will see it. So now we can take this part because now, that radius, I guess I didn't check the radius rounding from the original file. And then bada boom, we can jump over to that other view. Oh, isn't that nice?
Bam. Little tap, tap. I really want to drive that home, but I also want to be able to take that apart.
All right, nice. That's a pretty good one. Nice work, Jake.
Thanks. Thank you, everyone, for sticking around. Always appreciate you, and we will see you in 2 weeks for the next show. Have a wonderful evening.